So yesterday I had a conversation with my colleague Daniel, and we were discussing the devastating impact of the first hurricane that hit, Hurricane Helene. And then after we were done talking, he actually called me up again and gave me some links to check out in regards towards this Hurricane Milton that's coming our way, or coming to Florida's way to be more precise. This is a storm that we did talk about on yesterday's show. And unfortunately, regrettably, it has gained a lot of power. And that means a lot of good, innocent people are at risk of being hurt. And a lot of communities are going to be severely impacted once Hurricane Milton makes landfall. I would say to anyone that's in the or will be in the impacted vicinity, please evacuate. Help out your neighbors, your friends, because this storm looks like it's going to be something different. I don't want to be jumping on board of the panic train, but we here at Heartlands Media, we cover the news, analysis, give our perspectives and points of view, and a lot of experts are saying that this is going to be a very powerful, deadly storm. There's been reports in regards towards Florida officials now even trying to evacuate and empty out toxic landfills that are going to be in the area too, because of how powerful this storm can be. So to our Florida people, please be safe. I want to pull up this video here. This is from Fox News. So let's go ahead and play this video. This is a weather warning.
And breaking news here at Fox Weather, we now have a Category 5 hurricane, Hurricane Milton. The pressure has dropped from 933 millibars at the 11 a.m. advisory. This is the new special advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Pressures dropped to 925 millibars, winds at 160 miles per hour, making Milton a Category 5 powerful hurricane, churning just north and west of the Yucatan Peninsula. As we take a look at this, it's data from the Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunters. They indicate that Milton has strengthened to that Category 5 with those maximum sustained winds at 160 miles per hour. It is sitting 735 miles southwest of Tampa, Florida. And again, the pressure has dropped. This storm has gone through extreme rapid intensification. That is qualified when we have winds of 58 miles per hour or greater within 24 hours. This thing has done even better than that at 1.90 mile per hour increase in winds within 24 hours. So this is a special advisory coming in from the National Hurricane Center. You can see the well-defined eye of Milton, Hurricane Milton Category 5 at this point. A lot of energy with this one. And take a look at Milton's wind history. At 5 o'clock this morning, the winds were at 100 miles per hour, quickly jumped up to 160 miles per hour. If you have missed a lot of the news over the weekend, we went to something that was unnamed, to a tropical storm Sunday morning, to a hurricane as we went through late Sunday evening. Forecast track as the new track continues. We'll wait for this to come in from the National Hurricane Center. Still having impacts on Florida. Now you'll notice it will decrease in intensity when it makes landfall Wednesday. That shouldn't matter. What should matter to you is going to be the amount of storm surge. This is the most aggressive storm surge forecast for the Tampa area. Of course, we watch this one closely, and when you look at the enhanced satellite imagery, a perfect center of circulation, only about 8 miles wide as this continues to intensify.
All right. Now, I am really concerned about how this will all play out. The nation's eyes are on Florida as Hurricane Milton seems poised to strike the state this week, nearly 2 weeks after experiencing the destruction of Hurricane Helene. Residents of the Sunshine State are no strangers to hurricanes, of course, but experts are sounding the alarm regarding Milton. The storm rapidly intensified into a Category 5 hurricane Monday. You know, not to raise alarms or cause panic, or either that cause rage, but you know, just a few days ago, I remember Hillary Clinton talking about an October surprise. Now, I don't know if there's some sort of lever, switch, button, magic clap on, clap off thing in regards to making an October surprise. But this is one hell of a surprise that nobody wants. Just throwing it out there. Trying to fly under the radar was that one, if y'all catch my drift, because I am reading the live stream chat. And yes, this is extremely suspicious, but also This should show you guys the absolute power of Mother Nature and why it should never be messed around with. Rapid intensification. The storm officially became a hurricane Sunday, according to the NHC. And Monday, it had already intensified into a Category 5 hurricane. Rapid intensification, as defined by the NHC, is when a maximum sustained winds of a tropical cyclone rise at least 30 knots in a 24-hour period. 30 knots is equal to just below 35 miles per hour. This is what rapid intensification looks like. Going to sleep to a meh Category 1 hurricane and waking up to a monster Category 5 with 160 mile per hour winds. CNN meteorologist Alyssa Rafa wrote Monday in a post on the social platform X. Truly mind-boggling and scary. The scientific nonprofit Climate Center noted Milton's rapid intensification in a thread, writing the oceans rising in temperature due to human-caused climate change are feeling stronger tropical cyclones. Now, when Hardlands Media was on the radio, there was one thing that Daniel covered in regards to these hurricanes and how devastating they could be. In Florida, there's some nuclear power plants, especially also in the other outlying southern East Coast states. And there are toxic landfills, waste, be it garbage or other types of landfills. And it's very important to know that once those chemicals and dangerous pollutants are put into our clean drinking water or in our environments, some of those chemicals stay around, some of those pollutants and toxins stay around for quite some time. I would say to homeowners, make sure you protect your properties, and I hope that you have a good lawyer to make sure that whatever comes your way, you do not lose your property. Please fight. All right. This is the same kind of thing that we saw before in other natural disasters, such as what happened to the people of East Palestine, Ohio, where the train derailed, and now a lot of people's homes are under value. And let's not forget what happened to the people of Lahaina when the fire started. And oh my goodness, all the poor folks' home was burnt down, but yet the rich folks' homes still remain. That's not suspicious, but oh boy, okay, kind of does look suspicious. Let's continue on a little bit further, because speaking of this is clearly a little surprise. Hurricane Milton may be October surprise in presidential battle, because it's going to matter. The intensification of Hurricane Milton into a Category 5 storm headed straight for Florida will pose a serious threat for the Biden-Harris administration. Oh, you think? Because trust me on it, we got a follow-up to this story. Continuing on, which has already been stretched by the devastating impact of Hurricane Helene in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, you name it. President Biden and Vice President Harris, who have already visited parts of the country hit by Helene, have worked hard to stay on top of the federal recovery effort, but their leadership skills will be tested in new ways when Milton, which is generating winds of 175 miles per hour, slams into Florida. Florida Senator Mark Rubio, little boy Rubio, posted a map Monday afternoon on the social platform X, warning that communities along the west coast of the state could be hit with 8-foot to 12-foot storm surge. Please, people, look, I know a lot of people want to post some stuff on Instagram or running in the wind or running in the rain. Don't do it. Florida, no one is doubting your courage, but this one looks like a real fight. Bracing for the huge storm, Biden on Monday signed an emergency declaration for Florida, citing more than 36 counties that could be impacted by the storm. So great. Does that mean the people of Florida are going to get a $1 billion relief package like how you give to Ukraine or Israel? Hey, you know what? Better yet, how about I ask the audience? People of the free world, do you think that the Biden-Harris administration is going to give a $1 billion aid package to the people of Florida? Type 1 for yes, kid, because our government cares. Shame on you. Shame on all of you for thinking negative thoughts. A type 2 man there on their own. Come on. They're trying to tell people they get $750 by logging on the internet, and a lot of people don't have the internet. Get out of here, you silly goose. Thinking they're going to help out. Florida and all the other states that have been hit by the hurricanes. You got to rename your states Ukraine and Israel, okay? Trust me on it. You might get money. You might get money then. And let's see what else we got here. I just want to continue pushing forward. Let's do this. Continuing on. Bracing for the huge storm. Again, I already read that. The stakes are high for Harris. Oh, you think? Who has high favorability rating than former President Trump, but trails a Republican on the trait of leadership in some battleground states. All right, listen. I really don't think Harris has what it takes to be a real good leader. And I saw that CBS interview that she did, especially about the whole idea of her even owning a Glock. And then her response about being anointed as a Democrat nominee, even though there was a primary. But if there was a primary, I didn't get the memo because the thing is, no one really voted. I mean, you had Biden, who was selected, and anybody else that was running the Democratic primary was cast aside. And as soon as Biden dropped out, oh, hey, here's Kamala, and she's the new nominee. Higher favorability rating. Okay. All right, fine. We'll see. We will see. The liberal meltdown will be glorious after this. This is really going to depend on the impact of Hurricane Milton that's about to impact Florida and most likely cause lots more rain over North Carolina. That's really going to test the federal government's response. If there are any shortfalls in the National Guard or FEMA's plans to help those states, shortfalls? What? Trump will be viewed as someone who will say, "I told you so." Yeah, of course. Trump could absolutely take advantage of that if they haven't planned it all the way through, he added. It's really going to be a test. We're talking about trying to convince small amounts of independent voters to go one way or another. Well, gee, and all these quotes come from a Republican strategist, Ron Bogine. So he's talking about that. Strategists in both parties are looking back to Hurricane Sandy, which slammed into the mid-Atlantic states shortly before Election Day 2012. Then President Obama's adequate response to disaster, which was captured in visual terms by Republican New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, warmly greeting the president on the tarmac of Atlantic City International Airport in late October, helped seal his victory over GOP nominee Mitt Romney. 12 years later, the Republican governors of Florida and Georgia, Ron DeSantis and Brian Kemp, realized the optics and political stakes of the moment and are carefully steering clear of any photo ops that might make Harris look presidential. DeSantis on Monday declined to take Harris' call. As DeSantis' aide explained, it appeared to be political. Kemp, meanwhile, is keeping his distance from Harris, who visited Georgia last week and instead appeared with Trump at an event in Columbia County. That's pretty smart right now. If you don't like your current president, don't do a little hug like Chris Christie did. Harris announced at a press event last week in Augusta, Georgia, that FEMA would provide $750 to people who need immediate help because of Helene. You think anybody's going to get that $750? Because I've been seeing more videos on TikTok and all over social media of residents who've been impacted by the first hurricane, and they're all saying that they've been denied. People ain't getting their FEMA money. You know, I swear I've seen this before when Biden promised us a $2,000 stimulus check, which we never got. And before any diehard vote blue, no matter who, sociopathic liberal starts typing in the comment section, 1,400 plus 600 is a 2,000. No, those are two separate things. Okay? I don't like a light envelope. I don't like a false promise or a stutter step. You promised us $2,000 and we never got it. That's how I view it. And if that makes me mean or insensitive, well, you know what? I never said I was a good person. The situation could get dramatically worse in Florida and other states over the next few days as another huge storm comes barreling down on Tampa and Sarasota, while those streets and sidewalks of local communities are still lined with debris from the last storm. So, what does this mean? Well, I want to pull up this video here from Hotspot, all right? Because this has to pull up with the previous hurricane that hit, and how two little corporations that you might not have heard of, BlackRock and Vanguard, are kind of sniffing around, trying to find out what's going on. So let's pull up this video here. Shout out to Nico House and Hotspot. People of Florida and all the states that are going to be hit by these hurricanes, you got to come together.
So as you all probably know by now, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there about Hurricane Helene. And although at first glance, most of us would be tempted to just look the other way, but once you look at the circumstances that perfectly fell into place, combined with the special interests that benefited from the disaster that's been caused by Hurricane Helene, it's starting to look too much like a perfect storm, and we got to double back and look at some things. Now, first, let me start by saying we can only confirm the facts as we know them to be true. We don't know anything for certain, but the facts. So we're just going to review those, and I'll let you draw your own conclusions. First of all, if you're from North Carolina, I actually don't need to be the one to tell you that hurricanes rarely hit Western North Carolina in the way that we've seen Hurricane Helene hit Western North Carolina. And actually, in the strictest sense, no hurricane in the history of North Carolina has hit Western North Carolina, the areas most affected, like we have seen Hurricane Helene hit. Hell, if we just do a compare and contrast between Katrina and Helene, Helene dwarfs Katrina in max winds, diameter, and wind field. And what also makes Helene unique is the fact that for the first time, maybe ever, the weatherman actually perfectly predicted the trajectory of the hurricane without any fault whatsoever. That almost never happens, guys. And I feel like it's important that we talk about the significance of that. Most of the time, atmospheric scientists attempt to predict the direction of a hurricane, but oftentimes it is too difficult because once that hurricane touches land, there are significant atmospheric circumstances that can alter the trajectory of the hurricane, or even stop the hurricane in its tracks altogether. Not to get too much into the weeds, but something like entrainment can happen, for example, where dry air can converge into the storm clouds and prevent precipitation production, which obviously would slow down or even stop a hurricane. Or another storm system can come into play, changing the trajectory of the hurricane as well. Or a hurricane can be so strong, so ferocious, that the eye of the storm collapses in on itself and it slows the velocity down, which could obviously change its trajectory or slow it down. But either way, this is once again something normal that we can expect to see in most hurricanes. So I'm mentioning all of this to say, for an atmospheric scientist to perfectly predict the trajectory of a hurricane requires a set of perfect circumstances that we almost never see. And for those circumstances to align so perfectly, while simultaneously our government is completely unprepared, despite the fact that we predicted it accurately and used data from Katrina to predict this hurricane, made me a little bit suspicious, guys. So,
I mean, what could go wrong? It's not like there's some valuable lithium mines in these affected communities that were hit by Hurricane Helene. It's not like there's some valuable resources and some, oh my goodness gracious, Cretaceous, some pesky homeowners owning property and land. I mean, say it with me, folks. There's nothing wrong about that, right? Wrong? Yes, no, maybe. How convenient people are losing their homes all across the country, especially under these 4 years, be it from a train derailment and chemicals being exposed to people. The most dangerous wildfire in U.S. history, hitting a famous tourist location. But yet somehow the rich homeowners like Oprah and the Zuckerberg, well, they're okay, but all the poor folk, oh, too bad. But hey, at one time, $700, people behind it. Did you ever get that $700? And oh, wait, now we got these hurricanes. Say it with me, folks. There's nothing suspicious about that. You're just being a silly goose. You know, once you look at all of this, things are kind of adding up. You'll own nothing, and you better be happy, right? Where's our government at? Where's our relief package? What a shame that these communities were never named Ukraine or Israel.
So I had to start doing some digging. And it turns out that Western North Carolina, you know, the part of North Carolina that never gets devastated by hurricanes, is embroiled in a huge battle over lithium mining. It has been since 2021. Like in Gaston County, one of the affected areas where Piedmont Lithium is trying to mine more lithium. But as you can see here in 2021, the North Carolina county slapped a moratorium on the mining for the lithium in the area because it turns out the county commissioner said that the company cannot be trusted without adequate local controls to protect the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens. Oh, by the way, probably random and you don't have to worry about it, but BlackRock is the lead institutional shareholder for Piedmont Lithium with Vanguard in second place.
Say it with me, folks. That's not suspicious. By the way, BlackRock and Vanguard too, I have a little bit of a beef with them because These are the same corporations that are also intertwined with all the crap that's being spewed out of Hollywood. By the way, think all those Hollywood people give a damn? Very similar to Washington, D.C. They know how to act, but they don't give a damn.
We're just going to leave that. Not only has Gadsden County been embroiled in this issue over mining the lithium in the area, but the DOD in 2023 made a deal with Albemarle Lithium Company to do the same thing. And Albemarle's deal is to do this in Kings Mountain between 2025 and 2030. Also, probably just a coincidence again, but Vanguard is a leading institutional shareholder for Albemarle Corporation with BlackRock in third. Coincidences are starting to add up, aren't they? What makes this even more suspect is that somebody discovered that there is a patent on a machine from 2003 that can use sound waves to steer weather systems. Now, we don't know for a fact that it was used, but if it was used, it would probably make the floods look a little something like this. I don't know, just saying. So with that information in mind, it's important that you understand that these people were not just against the lithium mines being built because of the environment. Piedmont was calling for the demolishing of their homes, digging up of farm fields and woods, and disrupting streams of water. So to be clear, are any of you about to volunteer to have your home destroyed for a lithium mine? Probably not. But you know what can help solve that problem? I don't know, maybe a hurricane as strong as Katrina arriving to your town for the first time in your lifetime when it never has happened before. And I don't know, destroying all the homes that these lithium companies wanted to destroy in order to mine this lithium. On top of all that, conveniently enough, the pressure from the hurricane relief efforts and the government forced the port workers who were on strike to end their strike after just 2 days. And of course, Biden and the Democrats are already taking credit for it. And because of those pressures, those workers who were on strike took a 15% hit in negotiations for projected wage increases over the next 6 years. And it's important to know that this port strike was already going to be a massive problem for the U.S. economy. So it is mighty convenient that this port strike is now forced to end because of this hurricane, even though it's already been put out there that FEMA misappropriated funds. And so the supply chain regarding the strike with the port workers wouldn't be more or less affected if FEMA isn't paying for the supplies to arrive at the affected areas anyway. So given the...
absolute power. Absolute power, unchecked power. Now, again, it will be very interesting to see the final cleanup stages, especially after this election. Nothing like an October surprise, right? You know, people like to say that October is a spooky month, you know, with ghost schools and goblins. But even putting this all aside, the absolute heartless actions of these politicians while U.S. citizens are suffering and will suffer, especially tomorrow, says a lot. Evil comes in many forms, folks. It comes in many forms, and sometimes it can come in the form of a smiling politician. But beware, there are daggers in that smile.
Lithium mining, given the fact that BlackRock and Vanguard are involved, given the fact that the DOD, the Department of Defense, is officially involved, given the fact that there are weather manipulation patents out there, and given the fact that Western North Carolina specifically was hit with a weather system unlike something they've never seen before, at the most convenient time for all of these special interests, how can anyone paying attention be like, yeah, this is totally all on the up and up, and it's just a super weird amount of perfect coincidences aligning? I can't tell you what happened exactly. I just know something ain't right here.
So what's the final conclusion of all of this? This devastating hurricane, Hurricane Milton, is now Category 5. As it stands right now, still gaining power. Now, to be clear here, once it makes landfall, it will be decreasing in power. But originally, it was supposed to be a storm, simple tropical storm. Cities like Tampa and all of the outlying communities can get some permanent damage once a storm hits. It's very clear. But the politicians aren't going to give us relief. I'll be surprised if anybody gets that $750, but if you got that $750, good on you. But the only way we're going to get out of this is by working together. Please, people who are going to be hit by this hurricane in Florida, we here at Hardlands Media stand in solidarity with you. And I'm very sorry that this is happening to you and your community. I gave this warning last year about how we were all Lahaina. And how our government treated our own citizens there. Sometimes I'm hate it. I really do hate it when I'm proven correct.
Now what you're following, that's idolatry, that's just fake. And all that wallowing that you tolerate, that's not faith. The kings of colony watched autonomy make our graves. The kings of colony know no policy, only rape. Now once you fall asleep, it won't bother you what they say. But the kings of colony, while they slaughter, they still complain. And we say, please color me, still too solemnly, still too plain. All hail economy, praise the pharmacy, seas in flames. They're buying up Hawaii, and the smoke's not even cleared. Those vultures smelled the fire and an enterprise appeared. Investment opportunities were melted down, communities leave vacant space BlackRock has been lusting for years. The council meets in private and they don't discuss survivors. Concerns among construction groups are all Lahaina hears. They'll wander through your city with this mocking sword of pity next to Oprah and her camera crew who tore the Trail of Tears, where footage flows as freely as the stream of liquid steel and the pools of pure aluminum that trickle down your wheels. And Biden's here to say he knows exactly how it feels, cause he had a kitchen fire once and had to miss a meal. And people still believe that piece of shit deserves your vote, like he's not why supplies are being smuggled in by boat, like he's not why our citizens were forced to stay and roast. And he can't unfreeze your funding, folks, cause Azov needs it most. I'll bet my every dollar Biden watched it with a smile. I'll bet he knows the whereabouts of every missing child. He's just the kind of man who lives to trample something tribal, collecting culture's corpses just to throw them on the pile. Like he and all his buddies didn't dream about the day when those who dared defy the donor class were cleared away. When home insurance triples and you can't afford to stay, and your land falls to the hands of those whose windfall fan the flames. The state will take Lahaina and they'll bastardize its name, and tourism will swarm it all the same. You see, the state we left Lahaina shows the ground rules of the game, the planes that in the night ignite the planes. And if questions raised that reckon the potential use of lasers, I suggest you take a closer shave by way of Occam's razor. And if those civilians stood between this country and its gains, then there's really nothing further to explain. Because you may know this already, if you truly know our past, but it ain't the first occasion and it will not be the last, where Americans are kettled in and made to bear the blast, are barricaded in and left for ash. How many in Lahaina now are lying there awake and still can hear the city we left leveled in our wake? They still hear all the people that we let the fire take, instructed from above to stay in place. So look to the horizon, cause a fire comes for you. Desire made incarnate of the power-hungry few who instructed the police to not let anybody through, to barricade them in, and so they do.
All lies will be exposed.